And we are recording.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is the April 29th, 2025 Contracts Committee. This is a specially set meeting, and I will call this meeting to order. And if we could have our always capable, always omnipresent Board Secretary, Luis Arpetian, call roll, please.
Soel,
Present.
Tony,
Present.
Stallings.
Present.
You have a quorum, Chair.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a call for public comment. Before we begin public comment, I would like to remind everyone that under the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, public comments must pertain to items that are on the agenda or be related to matters that are within the jurisdiction of this agency. We have a full agenda today, and we're scheduled for 2 hours. As a chair of the board, I reserve the right to limit each speaker's time to 2 minutes or to close the public comment period after 2 hours, which includes a 10-minute break, or after the first 100 speakers, whichever occurs first. State Bar staff will attempt to call members of the public in the order that they appear in the attendee pool. If we could have individuals who wish to make public comment today, please raise your hand now so we can get an idea. We do have one individual who signed up ahead of time. We also appreciate that. If you wish to give public comment, you can raise your hand. There is a hand icon and it should appear at the bottom center of your screen. Click that now and State Bar staff will call on you in the order that hands are raised. For those of you participating via phone, you may virtually raise your hand by pressing *9. Doing so will alert staff that you'd like to make comment. State Bar staff will call on you and open your microphone so you can address the board. For those of you participating from a notice location, please alert the State Bar staff member present in the room that you'd like to make comment. Due to time restrictions, we cannot allow more than 3 minutes for each speaker. Please note that staff will have an on-screen countdown timer visible to all attendees during the duration of your public comment. Timer's 3-minute countdown will begin as soon as you start your comment. The on-screen timer will flash throughout the final 10 seconds. Because of the shortened nature of this meeting, scheduling 2 hours to handle this heavy agenda, and depending upon how many public commenters, I do reserve the right to reduce the time to 2 minutes per the State Bar's public comment policy. Louisa, note that we have one advanced sign up and a phone number ending in 1949. Is that individual on the call right now?
No, they are not on the call right now. We do have 4 hands raised at the moment. And just give me a moment. I believe we also have somebody at the LA office who would like to provide public comment.
Let me just ask Trustee Tony or Trustee Soel, do you have any individuals at your locations?
Do not.
I do not.
I do
I
not.
don't have any at my location either.
Okay. Okay, so we can. I'm not seeing the LA office right now. Devin, can you check with Joe to see if the LA office is connected?
They are. The member of the public there does not wish to make public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you so much. So Chair Stallings, the first public commenter is Zach DeFazio. Zach, your microphone has been enabled.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Zach DeFazio Farrell. I'm a February 2025 bar exam applicant. I'm deeply disappointed that the State Bar has failed to submit its petition to the California Supreme Court by the April 28th deadline. It publicly set on April 18th. Instead, applicants were notified late yesterday, the evening of April 28th, that the petition would be submitted today, April 29th. That leaves the state Supreme Court with minimal time to act before the scheduled May 2nd release of results. This last minute delay creates even more stress and uncertainty for applicants. Many of us are now in limbo, so we're unsure if we passed, unsure if we need to begin preparing for the July exam, and unsure how this delay may affect our careers, job offers, or licensure plans. The bar has acknowledged the extraordinary failure of the February exam. That makes it all the more unacceptable of this petition, intended to address that failure, is being handled so late. We deserve timely results, and basic procedural competence. We've had neither. Thank you.
You,
Next, we have Benjamin Cohn. Your microphone has been enabled.
Hello, I would like to first address item 2.1 with the approval for the contracts. There is an item on that request for mental health services for the California bar examinees. I wanted to point out that when it comes to very sensitive things like mental health providers, usually there's an important element of trust and of using a chosen provider, kind of like with attorneys. And I don't think it's appropriate or efficient for the state bar to be selecting the counseling or therapy providers that applicants would be using for this purpose. I think that if there's going to be maybe a stipend for paying for people's chosen providers, that would be one thing, but to pick a particular contractor for that purpose would create a situation where applicants may feel like they're paying for something they don't feel comfortable using because it was selected by the source of their stressors or their traumas, and particularly when there's not more concrete or remedies being provided, they may feel like that compromises the element of trust, but they still have to pay for it because it's going to come out of their applicant fees to have this $250,000 contract. And then if they want those, if they do need those same services, they have to pay for it separately if they want to use their own provider. So I think that that should not be purchased in this way. At most, it should be a stipend for people who want to choose their own for mental health providers or positivity mindset or however it's being framed. Then the second point I wanted to make was that I am very disappointed that the CBE declined to provide a remedy to the acknowledged exclusion from the bar exam experiment for applicants who did not have pending testing accommodation approvals or petitions at the time that the experiment was announced. And despite that exclusion, there was really not a good reason provided for the failure to petition the California Supreme Court, which I now expect applicants will be doing. Third point I wanted to make was just that I wanted to join the last speaker's point that it really should have been expedited to have that petition filed. Thank you.
Next, we have MC. Your microphone has been enabled.
Hi, good afternoon. I don't have words to express the frustration that I feel with this board, with the way the February 2025 exam was rolled out, and now we get a last minute email letting us know that our results are going to be delayed. And that's just maybe like, I don't understand what is going on with the lack of accountability, transparency. We asked if AI was used because those questions were choppy and odd and awkward. And we couldn't get a no in a public setting. And then suddenly we get, yes, AI was used by the psychometrician that also decides that the questions are appropriate. Like, how do you not see the conflict of interest? You are the board that's supposed to set an example for us. And then on top of that, I think I've seen one resignation. If this was a private company, the CEO would be out already. Where is the accountability? Thank you.
We have Steve. Your microphone has been enabled.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, so I'm speaking about the email that was sent yesterday about the delay in the results for the bar exam. Many of us have made plans around the release date, and I wanted you guys to consider or at least disclose how you're going to go about releasing different results on people based on their circumstances. I don't know if people were successfully able to go through the entire exam without any interruptions, or there are people who had maybe minor interruptions and then some people had major ones. I don't know how you guys are going to stack this up, but essentially there needs to be a way of how you guys are going to put everything all together and have this as a baseline. And then I saw you guys have like if 4 out of 6 were graded, this is how it's going to be looked at. And then you guys had, I think, a 121 questions or 117. I saw something along those lines. I read a bunch of stuff, so they're not all on the top of my head. But I would like you guys to be transparent on how you guys are going to do this, because it almost seems like, and I say this just kind of rhetorically, it almost seems like a Watergate scandal, the way this is being handled, if you know what I mean. It's kind of seems like there's a lot of things that are tucked under the bed that we're not going to ever hear about. And, and it just came last minute that we're not going to hear this Friday, that we're going to hear our results. And I'm one of those that, my life is kind of on hold and I have different plans. And, now I told, a bunch of family and friends that, I'm waiting this Friday, and now they're going to assume that I failed because they're not going to hear back from me this Friday. And they're all just going to feel like, oh yeah, he probably failed. And they're not going to even reach out to me. So, I don't even know how many people I have to explain this scenario to. So just all these considerations for me and other people in my shoes, it makes us not know how to proceed with our lives, and it makes us not know what to say to other people. And, when you factor all this in, you guys need to, I don't know if this is a lack of good words, but just be a little bit more accommodating in this just this disaster of this last administration on the bar, and how you guys are going to grade us, because you're also thinking of our well-beings as bar, as soon to be bar members, hopefully, what's happened. And and as the last person who spoke, the example you guys are setting for us, if I submitted an assignment, like a motion or a brief, to one of my professors when I was a law student not too long ago, they would have given me an F. They would have failed me in the class. They would have done something that would have kind of made my standing in that class adversely impacted. So, like, I know nothing like that's going to happen to you guys, but considering that, you guys should reward us something, or do something different this time for us, because it's just not right what's going on.
Next, we have phone number ending in 3522. Your microphone has been enabled. Hi, your microphone has been enabled. You just need to unmute yourself. Okay, we can come back. Next, we have Shannon L. Your microphone has been enabled.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, so I took the exam in February of 25, and I just feel the Board of Examiners should have been well aware since November that remote testing was not going to be feasible, given the scale of technical issues that occurred during the experimental exam. The experimental exam had a much reduced server load, as it were. Test takers were spread out through, several days instead of all having them start on the same day. And even then, myself included, multiple people could not, contact customer service in time, could not log onto the server, were timed out, to the point where basically a retake of the experimental exam was scheduled. And I think to have the California Supreme Court approve the plan in October and then have only phase 1 of a botched experimental exam be deployed in November and still decide to go ahead with the plan in February smacks of incompetence at the very least, but honestly it feels more like willful negligence. Like I said, I personally had tech issues, and when I told admissions that, hey, I couldn't contact customer service for an hour, I basically was just told, well, sorry, it looks like your laptop wasn't great, so that's really not our problem anymore. Fortunately, I was allowed to retake it, but this sort of response from like an official body of test administrators just feels outrageous at the very least, I feel. So I feel like the writing was on the wall that this was not going to go well, and the fact that everyone decided to go ahead with it anyways is bewildering at the very least. Thank you.
Next, we have Dan Molina. Your microphone has been enabled. Hi, your microphone has been enabled. You just need to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Hi. This latest email, I mean, it's flabbergasting, frankly. Let's just start with F20. February administration of this exam cannot be graded fairly, period. Period, period, period. Is this corruption? Is this incompetence? It's definitely incompetence. This is a farce. Then you guys are the body that is determining if we're competent to earn a living, okay? Finances are being destroyed, lives are being destroyed, and are about to be destroyed even more. So upset. There are so many people that are upset. We were protesting yesterday in front of the courthouse in San Francisco. I'm willing to go down to LA to protest. This has to stop. This exposure, this has been going on decades, the racism, to everything. We need reform. We need real reform. And after February, you guys got to let people work. Alternative pathways, I understand what happened in September and October. Provisional licensing, something. But how are we supposed to survive going forward? There's lives at stake. Literally, there's lives at stake. Thank you.
Next, we have Serene Aitekian. Your microphone has been enabled.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. Good day. I'm returning today to address a troubling reality that continues to unfold regarding the transparency of the February 2025 bar exam and the evaluations of that exam. Despite the serious concerns raised, the bar has never publicly denied the reported use of applicants' law school GPAs and the number of previous attempts an applicant has taken the bar in the psychometric evaluations. It's astonishing that an easy denial hasn't been made if your commitment to transparency was sincere. Instead, the bar has chosen to hide behind doors and secret rooms, concealing the truth of bias from all of us applicants, attorneys, and the public. In an attempt to address the fallout from the unjust exam, the bar has proposed lowering the cut score. Yet it struggles to even gather a petition in time to go to the Supreme Court to release timely scores to the applicants. Bombshell after bombshell of unfair practices has emerged, revealing a system that seems more intent on maintaining the status quo than ensuring justice for future applicants and the applicants of February 2025. It's a shame that those in charge of admitting us to this practice, who preach transparency and ethics, are in fact among the most corrupt elements of this process. The ethical failures perpetrated against the February applicants warrants serious consequences. The behavior displayed throughout this ordeal is unacceptable. Those responsible at the highest level to the lowest level should have their law licenses revoked for all the serious ethical and moral violations they have violated. Moreover, rather than spending $250,000 on positive mindset training for future applicants, I urge you to redirect those funds to support the February applicants who have been wrongfully harmed mentally, emotionally, and ministerially by your shortcomings and inability to administer a fair and just exam. It's time to take responsibility for the ongoing harm inflicted by your mismanagement and to make amends for the suffering of those you have affected. Thank you.
I apologize. Now we have Serene Aitekian. Your microphone has been enabled.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, and I echo everything that was just said by all the other examinees. I'm here today to propose a necessary remedy, one that recognizes the failures not of the candidates, but of the system itself. The February 2025 exam was a failure of administration, transparency, and basic fairness. It did not simply challenge candidates, it shattered trust. It broke people who had already proven their readiness to practice law. We are not here because we are unprepared. Every one of us completed rigorous legal education, passed the MPRE, and the ones like me who's a retaker came within 100 points of passing the bar exam in our previous attempts. We have demonstrated our competence, how dedicated we are to becoming an attorney in the state of California. We worked for months without sleep, but this time around, it is the system that failed to demonstrate its competence. Many of us have employers who urgently need us licensed. Some of us face losing our immigration status without swift action. This is not a theoretical issue. It's immediate, life-altering, and largely preventable. We've been reporting all these issues we had even before the exam even happened. We reported them during the administration and just after, but we were never heard. When an institution's unprecedented incompetence derails lives and careers, unprecedented remedies are not radical, they are required. I urge you, retroactively pass all candidates who missed by 100 points or fewer in their final attempt before February 2025. Anything less would be another failure, one that this community can no longer afford. Thank you.
Next, we have Diana Georgian. Your microphone has been enabled.
Hello, thank you for letting me the opportunity to speak. I didn't really prepare anything. I just wanted to share a concern of mine. So during one of my MBE sections, as I'm sure many other students also experienced, there was a 70-minute delay because the system was down. And when the exam finally resumed, I didn't have enough time. So I ended up guessing on about 40 questions just to get something on the answer sheet. What really worries me is that those guesses might still count as if they reflect what I actually knew. If I had known that unanswered questions would have been handled differently, like the psychometrician recommended, I would have left them blank instead. But in the moment, I did what I thought gave me the best chance. So I just wanted to bring that and raise that to your attention to also factor in. Thank you.
Chair Stallings, we do not have any additional members of the public wishing to address this committee.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who is here on this call. Obviously, we, through this process, have taken many hours of public comment. Through those many hours of public comment, we have heard and we continue to hear. I recognize that the experiences of many of the applicants in the February 2025 bar exam were placed into situations that were difficult, burdensome, frustrating, really to say the least, and we're committed to finding appropriate and fair solution for those test takers. We've taken several unprecedented steps to try and reduce the financial burden, including reimbursement of fees, enabling free retakes, and offering flexibility to cancel in advance of the test. I understand that for some individuals that will not suffice. But what I wanted to do is give a brief update regarding the petition. There was a notice sent out to test takers last night in an attempt to be transparent. I can speak personally that the Office of General Counsel has been working around the clock to make sure that this petition is submitted to the Supreme Court and includes the relevant details that the Supreme Court needs in order to make such a kind of unprecedented call. So I know we're joined by Brady Dewar, Assistant General Counsel. Brady, can you just give a brief update on where we're at? Oh, you're on mute.
Brady, you're on mute.
Chair Stallings, with respect to what specifically, the update?
Just in regards to, you know, what went into the notice yesterday to the applicants, and then you know, where we stand as far as submitting the petition.
So I'm not aware of that, but I can follow up and get back to you in a minute.
Appreciate it. All right, we'll come back to that. We'll have a little bit more information for those who are on this call. We'll go to item 1, which is our open session minutes. This is approval of the February 3rd, 2025 joint meeting of the Contracts Committee and Board Executive Committee open session minutes. Are there any corrections or modifications any members of the board wish to make at this time? And if not, may I have a first and a second?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
All right, first by Trustee Swell, I'll make the motion for a second. Madam Secretary. Oh,
Go ahead.
unless Trustee Tony, did you want to? I'll give you the second if you were in the process.
I wanted to make one comment and then second it, and that comment is that I appreciate the summary of public comments on this minutes, and I think it's a good reminder to all of us of what the patterns are. Then, so I do appreciate that, and I'm a second.
Great, thank you. All right, so let the record reflect. Mark Tony with the second, Trustee Sowell with the first. May I have a roll call vote?
Sowell,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Stallings.
Aye.
It's 3 ayes, 0 nays. Minutes are adopted.
Great, thank you. Going on to
Chair
item
Stallings?
2. Yes.
Just wanted to, sorry for not having that at my fingertips. I just spoke with the team, or just contacted the team. It should be filed today, the petition.
Perfect. All right. Thank you for that. We'll go on to item 2.1. This is approval of specified contracts pursuant to Business and Professions Code 6008.6. And this is being presented by Program Directors Audrey Ching and Amy Nunez. So welcome both, and if we could promote them, please.
Thank you. I think Audrey is going to get us started.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, I missed that while I was being promoted, but we have 4 contracts to discuss with you. Amy's here to help with the questions. 3 of them relate to the July 2025 bar exam. I think we'll kind of go through those first. So we have the Apple One contract. Apple One is a staffing agency that we've used for many years when we source proctors ourselves, and then Apple One takes the paperwork part for us for onboarding and the payroll services that we need for proctors for the exam. Similarly, we have Robert Half in front of you. Robert Half we use as a temp agency. So when our sourcing needs some additional proctors at different sites around California, we use Robert Half to get those temps. And then there's a little misunderstanding, I think, based on public comment about the National Center for Civic Innovations. I think it's because this program has been under a couple different names over the years. So since July 2018, we've been having bar exam strategies and stories. Now we're calling positive mindset intervention. And that's a program free to applicants to sign up for about setting positive mindsets while they're studying and preparing for the bar exam. It used to be funded by Access Lex. When the Access Lex grant ended, the success of the program, of which showed on aggregate that applicants who participate in the program increased bar exam scores by 18 points. And when it's disaggregated for first generation underrepresented minorities, those increases are around 21 points. We felt it was important to continue this program, even if it was no longer funded by Access Lex. So that has been happening since February 2024 that we've been helping to fund this. They've actually looked for grant monies on their own to fund part of it. This amount today is for 3 exam cycles. The total in the parentheses, 250,000, is for a 3-year cycle of bar exam programming. again, all free to the applicant. So I think there was a little bit of misunderstanding from public comment about what that covers. The fourth contract is about the first year law students exam. So for the past 11 cycles of that exam administration, which happens in June and October every year, we've been using Prometric in a mix of the Prometric test centers. And then for those who can't get to a Prometric test center, we do allow online live remote proctoring for those who need to sit and pass the first year law students exam in order to move forward with their law school education. So that's the Prometric contract. Are there any questions?
All right, any questions? Yes, trustee Tony.
I'd like a little bit more understanding of what the Apple One vendor does. I know you explained it, but I didn't understand it.
I went over it really quickly, so no problem.
Try again.
Yeah. So the team sources proctors for every site. The accommodated applicant sites and the large standard sites. We estimate that we might need about 1,400 proctors for the July administration. But what we don't do is like the HR onboarding and paperwork and payroll for those proctors. So Apple One is like a handoff. They do that processing for us. Every year that we've done the in-person exam administration this way, we've used Apple One for those services.
Now, how does that interact with the Robert Half? Is the Robert Half the actual proctors, the cost of the proctors themselves? Do they interrelate somehow?
They do. They help with the gap. So Robert Half is a temp agency. So let's imagine, 3 weeks before the exam, we still need about 100 proctors based on our own sourcing. Then we get the temp agency to fill in the gap for those proctors where we still need some numbers at different sites.
So the 1.5 million, and I'm not challenging, I'm asking to understand.
Yeah.
Does that cover the cost of the 1,500 proctors themselves, or just the processing, onboarding, HR, payment things, admin? I'm just trying to understand it.
No, I understand. So Apple One does have a fee to handle those processing, but the 1.5 is what we are going to pay primarily, like the payroll for those proctors. And then the Robert Half amount is we ask for an up to amount, but it's kind of dependent on how many temps we need closer to the exam.
Okay, so in other words, Apple One is giving us both the 1,500 proctors,
Mhm.
the cost that we are paying them, and also all the processing fees. So, however they are paid and processed and all that, all the record keeping, they're doing all that.
Right, except that we are sourcing and recruiting the proctors, and then we hand off. Apple One does all the payroll, payment to the proctors, and the onboarding. So
Great.
pretty
And
much what you said.
okay. And for the recruiting of
Mhm.
the proctors, that's a lot of people,
Yes.
1,500. And who does that?
Primarily on our team, Giselle Cano is a recruiter for proctors that we've had for a few years. And
Okay.
she's got a list of prior proctors, and she's been sourcing on different job boards.
So that's done by the staff internally, by your staff, that
That's
piece
right.
of it. Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what part's done by the staff, what part's done by outside vendors. And I understand the need and the value of having a mix of doing that. So these 1,500 proctors, I don't know what your proctor test taker ratio is, but I assume it must be based on a ratio.
It is.
How how many test takers does that? You tell me something about the ratio and how many test takers that covers.
So we have been planning for a large July administration, as we've talked about with the committee
Sure.
board examiners and with you, based on the waiver from February and different factors, upwards of 10,000. It's possible that that number will not be that high, and so the 1,400 may not need as many as 1,400, which we'll know a little closer to when we have certain deadlines in the application, right? So we might not need quite that many. Standard sites have one ratio, a larger ratio, because a proctor can walk around several rows of standard test takers who are taking the exam. Our accommodated sites are smaller with a bunch of different accommodations, some of which are in semi-private areas, some are private. Those ratios are a lot higher. So the staffing mix for accommodated sites is a lot higher ratios. We also have some proctors that don't necessarily walk the floor. They are in the workroom getting the materials ready. So we have some different jobs that the proctors do on sites as well. I'd encourage you, any of the board, to come to one of the sites, either accommodated or a standard site in July, and you can kind of see that mix of how we staff. But it's a little bit role dependent and dependent on the makeup of the test center.
I appreciate that offer. I might think about it just for my own education. I've never taken a test, a bar exam, so I am at a disadvantage to my understanding of the process. So it sounds like, and tell me if if I'm on the right track or if I'm missing something, let me know what I'm missing. So the 1.5 million covers aside from the recruitment that's done in-house, it covers the all-in cost of 1,400 proctors of paying and processing for them. That will cover for 10,000 test takers. Is the contract written as a straight up to 10,000? Is there a range where it says something like, and I'm not asking to see it right now, but where it says something like it's gonna be, if it's 9,000 to 10,000, it's gonna be 1.5 million. But if it's 7,000 to 8,000, I'm just giving you wild examples, it'll be less, or is it just this is the way it's written up to?
That is our max forecast for Apple One. It depends on how many, they charge us on how many people we send to them to process. And
Got it. So it is prorated.
yes.
Very good, very good. And what happens, what happens if it's more? What happens if 11,000 people want to take a test? What happens to this contract?
I think if we're getting near, again, some of those deadlines for the application and our numbers are trending in a different way, we will have to come back to the contracts committee and amend the amount.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. And so that Robert Half, the temporary additional proctors would be to cover if the staff has done all the proctor recruitment, has gotten the 1,400, and for some reason there's a shortfall or there's more proctors that are needed, Robert Half can do it. And on the Robert Half contract, what happens if we don't need any extra proctors because your staff has gotten everybody needed, right? Or is this a contingency contract, or just help me understand?
Yeah, and Amy can probably jump in. We've always needed some number of Robert Half proctors. We do try to staff like some overage, but then we also will have no-shows, and we might people might come the first day to orientation and decide not to continue. So we might even need people up to the very day before, and Robert Half is good at sourcing pretty last minute for temps.
And is this also prorated so that it's up to a certain amount, and if you don't need them for that amount, it doesn't cost as much, or?
Right, they will charge us based on how many temps we need from them, plus their fee.
Okay, so these are kind of, at least in the case of Apple One and Robert Half, these are up to amounts.
Mhm.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that, and it makes sense to me.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Trustee Sewell.
I do have I think just two. I was interested in hearing a little bit more about the positive mindset intervention contract. It sounds like it's a free service that is provided to bar exam takers.
Mhm.
Just to try to get a sense of just some of the numbers. I mean, how many folks actually do take advantage of this opportunity, and how do we go about advertising or alerting applicants that this is an opportunity they could avail themselves from?
So I'll let Amy, maybe in a second, I'll let her talk and tell you about some specific numbers. We used to only offer it for July. So we had that Access Lex grant that started in July 2018. And since we've tried to fund it ourselves and they're also looking for grant monies on their side, we've been opening up to February and July takers. We also have like a cadence of sign up emails. So we encourage people to sign up so they can get on whatever the next wave of programming is. So we send to all the test takers, encouraging the signups. And then Amy, I'm not sure if you have an idea of how many have been taking advantage.
In the latest report in 2024, there was a report about the first 8 iterations of this program, or the 8 first waves. And roughly around that time, about 4,200 people had participated. And participation here is classified as those that enrolled in the program and completed each portion of the initiative. The initiative involves writing in a diary, writing letters, and participating in a few video engagements and watching a few videos. So that that led to the 4,200 people that had that comprehensive participation in the program.
And just a little bit of background, I think we first embarked on this in 2018. This was pursuant to the state bar working to modify its statutory mission to include diversity, equity, not equity, increasing diversity of attorneys as part of its statutory mission. And we were looking for ways to embed that concept throughout the organization. And this program came to us then. And as Audrey said, I believe originally grant funded, but then part of the decision was to reinforce our commitment to the work by structurally funding it and embedding it in the budget. So we budgeted for it ever since the program lost its grant funding, or most of its grant funding. And as you heard, it's been proven to be very successful. We can share the evaluation reports with the board.
Very good. No, thank you for that. And it does sound like it's a something that'd be very helpful and a positive for those folks that have signed up to take the test and can help them based on the metrics that you've outlined. My other question is just a purely numerical one. When I look at the item in terms of the contracts, the agenda item, the staff report, in terms of the items that are before us, it says that, and I'm asking this question. It says that at least the way I read it, that the admissions fund total is basically $1.877 million. That's the total amount. But when I add up the contracts, I get a different number. And I'm just, is there something that I'm not doing right here, or just trying to get a sense of the magnitude of the amount of contracts that we're voting on here?
So here we're voting on, there are 4 contracts, 3 that pertain to the July bar administration. However, we've had contracts that have come before the the board that have already been approved, such as the test sites that came
Right.
to the board meeting of, I think, either last month or the month prior. So some of these have already been approved. So these are some remaining contracts that will complete the contracts needed for July 2024, July 2025.
Yeah, no, and thank you for that, Amy, and understand that. I guess when I just look at the contract amounts,
Mhm.
if you just sort of straight add 1.5 million, 284,000,
Okay.
200,000, 93,070, it adds up to more than 1.8 million. And I just want to make sure that it's just that's I'm accurate with that, or if there's something that's here that should not hit the admissions fund.
So if you look at, for example, the Prometric, it's noted as $234,000. That's the ask right now. But the total contract, given that this is not this is an amendment, is 593. So that previous amount is not reflected here. We're only asking for 234, and the full contract amount has been 593 because this is reflective of an amendment to the larger contract. And the same with the National Center for Civic Innovation for this next year. We're asking for 93,750, but we've had contracts. This 250,000 is reflective over a 3-year period.
I think the delta, Amy, is the Robert Half. It's 250. So I think because we don't know exactly how much of the temp agency funds we're going to be needing, that might have been why the total is the delta of 250,000. But I actually do think it's probably more prudent to go with the higher amount that we don't know that we would need. So we might need to amend that total amount to include that 250,000 for Robert Half. That's the math I see. I think that's what you're seeing as well, Arnie. Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, Amy, I think it's because of the Robert Half could be significantly less than that because we don't know. But I believe we should amend that amount to 2.127750. So you can have that, and then we will obviously report back on what we spend out of the Robert Half funds. But I think we need to approve that so we can use that.
Okay. Yeah, that helps me because
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out how it added.
Right. That we don't actually know until we get closer how many temps we're going to need, but we need to ask for the full amount.
Okay.
Thank you for that catch. So we need to amend that in the item, Louisa.
That's why Trustee Sowell is chair of the Finance Committee.
You beat me to it.
Thank you.
All right. Good eye there, Trustee Sewell. Trustee Sewell, did you have any other questions?
No, I'm good, and Chair Stallings, unless you have a line of questioning, I'm prepared to make a motion.
I did. I was going to ask staff to just talk briefly about, we talk about onboarding that Apple One provides. Does that onboarding include standardized training for the proctors, or what point do the proctors receive that standardized training? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
We do the training of the proctors. So we actually train them, staff trains them on site.
And then can you talk just a little bit about that training?
Go ahead, Amy.
Sorry, I did want to mention that the onboarding also includes a background check of the proctors. So that is an onboarding. The background check is one of the tasks that Apple One takes on. But in terms of the training, when proctors come to the bar exam, they come the day before the bar exam. They have to go through an elimination of bias training that we put on. As well as just the logistics. So the trainings are set up based on people's roles, so that if you're a head workroom proctor or you are a floor proctor, there's going to be different tasks associated with those roles, and you are trained on those tasks. So the training starts the day before the exam, and every morning before the exam starts, there's also an orientation on days 1 and 2 of the exam that take place prior to applicants arriving.
And the orientation includes the implicit bias training.
And then if there's any issues the proctors have there on site, is there a dedicated state bar employee there at each site? If there needs to be any questions that are elevated to their attention.
We have a staffing plan at each site, which includes different roles, and then a staff member in charge, which is kind of the lead at each site.
All right, I don't have any further questions. Any follow-up? Yeah, Trustee Sewell.
You know, I did have just one more question. This goes back to the positive mindset services. You indicated that at one point in time, this was grant funded, but
Yes.
now we brought it on and taking it on in-house. Does that mean that folks are no longer seeking grant funding? So it maybe down the road, if we did receive grant funding, that it would reduce the contract amount?
The actual organizers have been seeking additional grant monies that have lowered our cost. So it's no longer funded through Access Lex, but the National Center for Civic Innovations seeks grant funding that lowers the cost that we pay. And it's for what we're asking for today for 3 exam cycles. So it's 93,750 for July of this year, and then February and July of next year.
Got it. Okay. So if they get additional grant funding, that will continue to lower our cost?
To bring down the cost, that's correct.
Okay. Very good.
I think maybe we could have our public-private partnership liaisons, maybe look at that and see if there's anything else we can do in that area. But
That's a good idea.
no, I think everything that I've seen regarding the positive mindset intervention plan has been positive. I think it's a really necessary service to provide test takers, and I've heard personally from test takers that they really appreciated it. So glad to see this work continuing. All right, any other questions, comments? If not, Trustee Sewell, I think you had a motion.
Yeah,
Oh, actually, yeah, let's review the motion, make sure it comports with the issue that you raised.
Do we need to put the dollar amount in there, or?
Yes.
I think that we should, because it's sort of referencing the table above, which has an incorrect number. Approves execution of the contracts listed herein for a revised admissions fund total amount of 2.2. What was it? 2.127.
Yeah. 2127750.
Yeah.
2127750, Louisa.
There's a 1 in
Yeah.
place.
2127750.
21275. Oh, okay.
There's 2127, 750.
You have many more zeros than necessary. You only need 1 zero.
Is that right?
One more 7. So 2127750.
750.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And that is the motion that I will make. That the contract committee approves execution of the contracts listed herein for a revised admission fund total of 2.127,750.
Right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Right, first by Trustee Sewell, second by Trustee Tony. Can I have a roll call vote?
Sewell,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Stallings.
Aye.
3 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries.
All right, thank you all. Ms. Nunez and Ms. Ching, appreciate it. We are now going to move into closed session pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 6026.7 sub C sub 3 to discuss the update relating to the administration preparation of examination materials and security of test administration for the California bar examination and of the first year law students examination. So committee members, you will get a separate link for the closed session, and we will, I think, what do you think, 15, 20 minutes for this item?
Yep, I don't think it's gonna be too long.
Okay. All right. So I won't give a time then when I anticipate us coming out of closed session, but it hopefully should not be too long. So I'm going to adjourn the open session meeting. We'll come back into close in just a few minutes. So we'll see you on the other side.
We are now recording.
All right. Thank you to everybody who's still on this Zoom. We have returned from closed session. There are no actions to report on, and so I will adjourn this meeting. All right. Thank you all for your work, tireless efforts, and thank you to all who are concerned about the workings of the State Bar. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.